Call to order the March 19th Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission regularly scheduled meeting. Jamie, can we start with roll call?
Tim Gary.
Here.
Jack McKenzie.
Here.
Terry Steenblock.
Here.
Tim Miller.
Here.
Jason Steenblock.
Here.
Doug Ramseth.
All right. Then we are looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Second.
I'd like to make a motion to make one amendment to the agenda. If you'll accept a friendly amendment, can we look to add a discussion item on the Parks Trails Comp Plan review?
What item is that?
We would be looking to add it to item 6B,
Okay.
just to amend the agenda to add a discussion item on the Parks and Trails Comp Plan review.
Okay. So move to accept and then to add the amendment.
And then who's second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, and then we have the open forum. Do we have-
Nobody for open forum tonight.
Okay. Then we'll look at approving the meeting minutes. We'll start with the December 11th, 2018 meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve December 11th meeting minutes.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Looks like we need to add myself to the roll call. Apparently I moved to approve the agenda, but I'm not
On the roll call.
on the roll call.
Okay, so I can add that if you want to include that in the amendment to approve with that addition.
I'll make the amendment to approve the December 11th meeting and to add Tim Miller's to the agenda, name to the agenda,
To the roll call?
to the roll call, I'm sorry.
A second?
Second? Okay, any other discussion on the December 11th? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, and abstain? Okay.
Jack,
Then
you
we
didn't
will-
abstain from that one.
I'm sorry, what?
Jack, did you abstain?
I wasn't there.
Abstain.
So you,
So you
I
have to
abstain.
Yep.
Yeah, put me down for that.
But his name is on, oh no, never mind. Okay, so looking at Tuesday, February 19th, 2019 meeting minutes. Looking for a motion to approve.
so move.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a?
Second.
Is anybody else? You can't second because you weren't in attendance.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the Tuesday, February 19th meeting minutes? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain.
Aye.
Abstain.
So we have the two abstains. All right, I think then we are moving on to the Bolton Mink.
Could I interject that I apologize for my untimely absences? I've been busy with the Minneapolis Parks Board Pesticide Review Committee, and that's taken a lot of my time.
Well, it's good to have you back.
Thank you.
It's great to have you back.
I know.
So, thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right, so next up, we have the Bolton Mink Belts Park Master Planning.
Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, this agenda item tonight is regarding the Bolton and Mink Master Plan scope of project that's included in the packet. The City of Forest Lake has had several conversations and is looking forward to some park renovations at Belts Park. Mostly to improve accessibility, really improve some of the deteriorating assets in the community, and really better align that as a nice neighborhood park that a lot of multi-use items to add to the park and just really make it a nice improvement project. With that, the city would be looking to work with Bolton and Mank and a landscape architect to really help lead and guide and moderate that process. So they would be involved in several community meetings, attending Parks Commission meetings to help facilitate some of that direction, community open house, and developing concept plans on what the Parks Commission would like to see and the community would like to see in this project, and really bringing that vision to reality. I think there's a lot of benefits of working with a landscape architect in this project, and I think it's an important step that we would take to make sure that we're going down the right, taking the right process and moving forward with this. So staff recommendation tonight is to approve moving forward with Bolton and Mank on this project. The cost is $25,000. And also I'm recommending that to pay for this, a recommendation to City Council to consider $25,000 from the 2018 general fund surplus to fund this project. So with that, if you have any further questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, looking for action tonight to move forward with working with Bolton and Mank.
So Jamie, one of the things they will do is they'll hold an open house and gather community feedback on our behalf.
Yeah, so listed in the packet here, they list 3 different items. So project management and meetings. They will attend the open house, and I think they will be helping facilitate that at any capacity that we'd be interested in. So we can be there present, but not responsible for managing the meeting. They can kind of be there to answer any technical questions and design elements, and take in community feedback, and really then translate that into a concept plan that takes what people are interested in seeing, and they can really put that to reality on paper. So they would help with the open house. They also, one of our challenges with that project is identifying a parking solution. So they would attend a meeting with the city staff and St. Peter's Catholic Church to understand a possible partnership there. So they would attend that meeting. They'd be at a couple of our park commission meetings and city council workshops as necessary. So they'd really be along in this planning process, leading us up to actual concept plans that we'd present to the community, and also really leading us up to the grant opportunity that we'd have later this year. So a lot of the planning and preparation work to really take into consideration all the feedback on whether it's been from the Political Action Committee, community residents, Parks Commission members. They'd be able to take all of that and really develop some concept plans and further us along in that process.
Have they worked with any other cities?
Bolton Mank does have work with other municipalities, and it is our who we work with for our city engineer. So this is just one of the landscape architects, and I believe they did a project recently in another community that's very similar to what we're looking to do. So good. I have no concerns on moving forward with them and their capabilities.
Was there a bid put, or was this put out to bid to multiple landscape architects, or is this just?
I did receive one other bid from another landscape architect, but given the quote amount at $25,000, we aren't required to have multiple bids. Anything above $25,000 would then indicate that threshold to require multiple bids on the project.
Where'd that other bid you did get come in?
It was a little bit higher in cost, and I think we already have that natural relationship working with Bolton and Mank. So it's working with our city engineer. There will be some items that they'll be involved with the water and sewer connections and what's possible at the park or not, and then the landscape architect. They work really closely together, so I think there's that benefit of working with Bolton and Mank, given that our city engineer, we work with on a daily basis.
Understood.
Any other discussion or move for a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Bolton Mank Belts Park Master Planning up to $25,000 out of the general fund, the 2018 general fund.
I'll second that.
Hearing a motion and a second, any discussion?
I just want to clarify in the motion, it's a recommendation for council to consider the $25,000, and then if that does not get approved at council, it would be wrapped into our budget or expense for the total Belts Park project. Just want to make sure that that was a clear point of clarification, that we understand moving forward with them so we can begin this process or continue it. And if the funding is not approved at the council level, then this would be an expense for the Parks Department, potentially to wrap into our project cost.
I guess the one question I have is, we have a certain dollar amount fund in our Parks and Trails fund. So if we want to go with the $25,000 through the general fund, then that would put more money into the park itself for equipment and stuff. So I
Correct.
think that would,
Right, and so I think that's a good recommendation to council, and hopefully they'll consider that request from the Parks Commission to fund it in that means, so that that $25,000 is available for additional park expense.
Okay.
So it's a request to them and for consideration to fund it in that means.
So if council does not agree to fund it in that way, we would be reducing the funds we would have available by 25,000.
We would include this in our budget for the project. Just wanted to make that point of clarification.
Questions? Okay. Right. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the list was the park dedication, wasn't it? Yes, done.
All right, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, the next we have are a series of discussion items. First on the agenda for discussion is the St. Clair Brooks Parkland dedication. I will turn this over to our zoning administrator, Donovan Hart, to lead this agenda item.
Thank you, Jamie. Chair and Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, I'd like to give you an introduction to the Parkland dedication process that all properties that undergo subdivision, basically it's, are required to pay a Parkland dedication fee. And the premise of this is that when you're creating new lots, you're creating potentially new residences and more demands for different city services, including parks. There's different ways that the zoning code specifies that this requirement can be met. I want to go through a few of those and actually, as a discussion item, discuss a current land use application we have for a 17-lot subdivision. It's proposed by Mr. Jamie Jensen here, who's the developer, and the development's called St. Clair Brooks.
Jamie, by the way, is a boy's name?
You won't forget my name, at least.
We can do, and so basically, this requirement can be satisfied through a land dedication, 10% of the project, of the gross developable acreage, or the equivalent of 10% of the value of the land, or the amount set in the fee schedule, which currently is $2,500 per unit. For instance, we've had a few apartment buildings come through, and so that in those cases, in the past we have just simply said we accept the fee amount. There's one project that came through about 2012 where they did a public park in Mill Pond over off the Harbor Park Trail and 4th Street Southwest. However, with a new council, new staff, we want to reconsider that the former policy of simply accepting the cash, the park dedication fee, and explore what possibilities the city can do to enhance the park facilities and offer increased recreational amenities for residents. In the 2014 master plan shown on your screen was a way to explore different parks, potential parks within the city. The ones designated as F, in that southern portion of the city, were the areas that were thought to be good locations, general locations for future neighborhood parks. So you have one over here, kind of in that eastern area, south of Highway 97. Then over here in the Chestnut Creek area, when that project, the first phase of it came through, the city did accept the Parkland dedication fee, However, with the second phase coming through, maybe there's a potential to look at a potential park there. And finally, there's one in the southwest area. And these are all meant to be, you know, kind of for these future parks, and also there's one up in the northwest corner. It was meant to be, you know, where there was basically raw land, and where when a development came through, the city had options. You know, there weren't many in between existing development, so it's kind of many opportunities for satisfying this requirement through a land dedication. With this proposal, with St. Clair Brooks, with Mr. Jamie Jensen, let me show you where it's proposed. You know, here's kind of the southwest quadrant of Forest Lake, coming in on a northwest corner of Tanner's Brook Golf Course. You can kind of see it here in this kind of mown field. The golf course did a minor subdivision and created a 10-acre lot. This right here, so we have Fenway here, and you have Headwaters Parkway up here, and Highway 61 over here. This area is the proposed 17-lot residential subdivision. Single-family homes are proposed. There are two roads coming off of Fenway. You can see how it's kind of, I think what the concept is that, you know, is to provide, you know, homes that front the golf course, you know, which is, you have that over at, you know, Forest Hills. Of course, you have it over at Castlewood with all the townhomes. This would be the first development in a while which would have this. And so you have within this some outlots. These are areas that currently are wetlands. And there's even some drainage utility easements over these, which represent areas where they represent where stormwater storage is. And they were put there as part of the original golf course development in 1999. And some larger lots here where there's also greater wetland area down here. And also a wetland complex that's this road rings, and, you know, another area. And so, you know, within this concept plan, Mr. Jensen hasn't proposed any land for a parkland, but this would be, you know, in this process, the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission could make a preliminary recommendation. And this is a concept plan, so this is the initial look at it. There's actually 3 phases with major subdivisions, you know, with the land division. And this is one where the city is doing a review, and they're giving the developer signals on, okay, what works or what doesn't work. And based on that, the developer can come back and refine the plan for the preliminary plat process and then the final plat process. So this is where a lot of the design work, you know, hasn't been done as far as the city infrastructure, the city water and sewer pipes, storm sewer pipes, etc. But at this density, this property, you know, this proposal is to provide city water and sewer within this. You know, as a requirement of making lots of this size in this zoning district. But, you know, before you, as you know, as part of the formal process, the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission would make a preliminary recommendation to council on whether you, as a body, would want to accept the parkland dedication fee, accept, you know, the 10% of land, accept 10% of the value of land, or even a combination. The part of the zoning code that is included in your packet specifies all these, and even includes an option for partial, you know, improved land, or land plus, you know, payment of some form. So at this point, I think I've given you a lot of information. I'd like to pause for any questions and just kind of, if I have your patience, that there's this is kind of a new process, and, you know, for this one, it isn't real obvious where one would want to put a park, because there are limitations as far as it needs to be a usable space. It can't be just, you know, just the leftover scraps, you know, that are unusable for any kind of recreational use. And also, I'd say that part of the city requirement for subdivision would be requirement that a trail would be constructed, you know, 10-foot wide bituminous trail on this east side of Fenway. So there, you know, by city standards, by the adopted engineering standards, a trail is included. And commonly, in the past, we've not done sidewalks on roads this short. However, you know, there's a potential, this is something that Mr. Jensen has sought some permission from the city to enter into negotiations to purchase this land. However, at this point, the city is doing a land use study for this large parcel to understand what it wants to do with it before it agrees to sell a portion of it to Mr. Jensen. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Donovan, Fenway, at that point, is that still blacktop or is that gravel?
That is gravel. It peters out basically at the beginning of Chris Taylor's property there with that latest roundabout
Okay.
construction.
Mhm.
So there's something in the range of, I don't know, maybe it's close to over 800 feet before it gets to here. And that, you know, all that would be part of the ensuring that there's adequate facilities for the development. You know, and kind of outside the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission discussion, but
And yeah,
that would be.
and I'm probably outside that scope also, but was just wondering, that road gets awful washboardy in the springtime, or, well, virtually year round. I'm just wondering, is there any way of making sure that road is improved rather than being a gravel road for this development?
We did have a meeting with Mr. Jensen last week, and that was a comment from the city engineer, from Ryan, that there would be some paving, not to full city standard, which is, you know, that really thick section,
Mhm.
but something to improve it because of, basically for every single family home, it's estimated that there are 10 daily trips emanating from that. So you have 5, you know, comings and goings basically of just your average household. So that, multiply that by 17, it's the number of trips.
And now, let's see, so now 190th would be considerably further south, wouldn't it?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
Were you gonna ask a
Right here.
question?
The one thing that I've seen or noticed before is on 190th by Tanner's Brook, when they kind of have a lot of things going on at Tanner's Brook, they pretty much take both sides of the gravel road for parking after their parking is full. So that kind of is going to shrink down in there also. So it was just a comment.
So Donovan, if they add to the trail on Fenway, that would be would it be just south of the roundabout and then somehow connect to the other side on Fenway? You know how the blacktop path was extended there? The only reason why I'm asking is because then it would at least allow for, I would say, a safer commute to Fenway, where there is a nice park facility there, and/or if they kept going north, would allow them an easy commute over to is it Eagle? There's that other, I can't think of the name right now, but,
well, the Eagle Bluff Park?
yeah,
Yeah.
so is that the plan to tire out that path to be able to allow them to connect to the other side of you know where I'm talking about?
Yeah, that would be a city goal. I think we're early on in the process to actually definitively answer that one.
And then my only other question, or maybe it's a concern or a question, I'm not sure what, but if we were to accept land, is there any say in what that land and where that would be? Because I think in the past, we've accepted some land in lieu of payment, and we've ended up with some land that isn't really usable as parks right now. Or, you know, it's basically sitting vacant. So if we were to do that in lieu of money, what would that mean for us? Would we have some say or?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, that could be part of your preliminary recommendation of the location of that land.
And then, if that were the case, would the goal then be, would we be allowed to make a recommendation that the builder fund playground equipment there as well? Or is that out of scope?
The code does allow that. I mean, it would be up to that 10% of market value of the land. You know, 10% of the land's market value. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep.
You know, because there's a specified number, but it can take many forms on how the actual, you know, requirement is met.
Okay. Does anybody else?
Yeah. Is the goal here for you, I mean, kind of bringing this up, is there a way they're leaning they would prefer? Is there a preferred method on this here? I mean, are we looking to right now make a recommendation to stick with, I mean, is land the preferred method of, you know, giving land versus paying the fee?
I mean, I think that's what that's what the discussion is about. I mean, it's one of the elements. Because you have to consider, you know, how much land is there, you know, and, you know, could, if you accept the cash, could that be used better elsewhere?
What is the land, how much land is there in this proposed development?
It is, 16 and a half acres.
Any idea on the approximate value to help make that decision on whether we're looking at the value of the land, 10% of the land, or the fee?
Well, I think the code specifies, you know, there's an assessor that's brought in to provide that because, you know, there's a contract from the seller for the property. But,
Certainly.
there are many different things that might, you know, influence that value. So we
Right.
have more objective.
Yeah, I'd be hesitant to, you know, propose something that we say we're gonna take, you know, we'd prefer 10% of the value if we don't know what that value is. You know, that's kind of like rolling the dice, right? So that's just my thoughts there.
It wasn't all that long ago that we were discussing how we have too many parks.
Right.
And now we're looking at developing another park, and what kind of a park is it gonna be, a premier park? No, it's just gonna be a little community park. And I thought you know, granted I missed a couple meetings here, but I thought we were trying to get away from that.
I'd agree with that, just because we have a lot of parks available and that land that we aren't using, so that would be it's kind of like we need the park dedication funds over the land.
So if I can interject quick, I kind of recapping what you guys were discussing about the number of parks we have and trying to, the direction that Parks Commission's been given is to focus on the existing parks and not necessarily focus on the ones that are being vacant right now. So for example, Bay Park, I just use that simple example. It's a 50 by 100 lot that doesn't have anything there. And previous direction has been to just let that be. And I think that what the purpose of tonight is to really start a process of bringing forward new concepts that are coming to the table for Parks Commission to at least have the opportunity to evaluate each particular opportunity to see where the nearest park facilities are to this proposed development, to understand or make sure that park needs are met within a certain area or whatever that might be defined as, but making sure that park needs are met as we are potentially expanding in the community. So this is going to be the process moving forward of anytime that there is a concept plan, it's going to come to the Parks Commission at this preliminary discussion level. So you guys are getting introduced to the topic early on, whereas we've been receiving it more as a process where it's just been a staff recommendation to accept the cash payment. And that's how you guys have seen it come through for those who've been on the commission for a while. Jack, to your point, you know, it doesn't mean you have to accept the land, because in this particular case, you know, you have to evaluate the to Tim's point, what the value is. So it's really just a new process, how the process should be and should have been. But just to bring it forward, you guys can discuss it. Today we're not requesting any action. It's just to bring it forward, let you know that this is going to be going through the Planning Commission, the City Council level. Many discussions to come yet, but there is that parkland dedication requirement, and to give us the opportunity to evaluate that. So I hope that clarifies a little bit.
One other question, I guess, is from this development, where is, other than Fenway, what other park is close by that would have equipment?
Certainly, yeah, I mean, I think Terry mentioned it, that, you know, the one up in this, you know, which is one of those parks where it was land and improvement, and it actually retained its status as private land, which is another approach. It's probably one that, you know, we've had some challenges with, because, you know, the HOA owns it, they maintain it, and every now and then we get the requests, the city gets a request, hey guys, can you mow it, or there's some maintenance being, you know, on the equipment, can you take care of that? And so there's kind of an uneasy relationship between actually providing the amenity and, you know, continued, you know, ownership of it. But this, you know, in this place, the city's not, you know, accepting the dedication now after that initial, you know, development was created.
And how far is that park? Is that within a mile of the development?
Yeah, I can give you.
Wouldn't you guess about a mile or maybe a little bit over a mile?
Yeah, I can give you Crow's, you know.
Okay.
It's
Well, as the
further
crow
south than
flies.
Fenway,
It's going to be.
so it would be closer.
It's about,
It would be closer to the development than Fenway would be, actually. And there is a sidewalk that's been built now on the west side as well because of, or right by Leela.
Yeah,
So
and so
you
it's
could,
about
in fact-
2/3 of a mile as the crow flies.
so you could in fact walk or bike that? I mean,
Yep. In all reality, if they connected it, the trail on the west side, you could take the trail on the west side to 200th Street and then go west on 200th Street and
Okay.
be relatively there, or go a little bit further down on the east side to Fenway.
I mean,
I think,
it would seem that, you know, if you have a couple of parks within a mile and you got a golf course at your backyard, I would say we should probably look at the cash rather than the land, because we don't really need.
A lot of amenities there.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is the potential for development on the other parcels of property besides that 17-acre piece? Do you see in your crystal ball, Donovan, 5 years, we're gonna be doing a 240-acre section over there?
It's certainly possible. I mean, this is all zoned residential, and so, you know, it can be developed. Even the golf course could be developed. I mean, there's no prohibition against that. You know, right now, and you know, this property right here, 160 acres, that's for sale. And you know, so in kind of one of the march, you know, where we see development going is toward the southwest area. So I mean, I could see that, you know, going back to the kind of the future parks map. You know, I can see that, you know, conceivably there could be a much bigger chunk dedicated to a park, you know, on another parcel.
Maybe a little more quality property, too.
But it's
And
just
give
more
the
opportunity-
developer
more
the
opportunity
chance to-
And a larger, you know, a true neighborhood park. I don't think you
Yeah.
can get a neighborhood park out of, you know, 16.5 acres.
I agree, and I'm looking at that overlay, and F
Yeah.
has the potential to be a bullseye onto a big parcel.
And that's what we see there. I mean, that, you know, if one of those property flips, I mean, it's, you know, it's gonna be a few quarters, you know. It's not gonna be, you know, it's not gonna be one of these smaller ones.
Well, I think that's the benefit of, like you said, a 160-acre parcel. You know, if you're looking at you can incorporate the park right into that development. You know, the developer's got his equipment there, you can grade and blade and push and pull, whatever. You know, I mean, not taking a run at anybody's, 17-unit development, but I think the cash makes more sense in this particular point. And then if you get that 160-acre development coming, now you have a park you can really plan out and set up properly.
Yeah, I think I would like to see options when the time comes and you're ready for something. I would like to see, I would never say never to another park. I mean, I think we need to look at what the options are and what's the cash total for us? How does it fit within the strategic plan of the parks and the priorities that we have? Would we be, if we didn't take the cash, would we be giving up something that's higher up on the list priority-wise for us? Do we have the ability, again, to make the builder not only provide the land and a land that is suitable, but also the equipment? I think it would be nice to see a recommendation come back with some of those options, along with the cost, to help us. That would be my thought, because it's hard to say yay or nay until we have something. So I appreciate at least being able to have the conversation now that there's something out there. It gives us time to noodle it and kind of think about the options that are available. And then when a formal recommendation comes back, I think we're a little bit more prepared, because we're not being hit with it a couple days before the meeting. And we see some options that would be on the table, and we'd be able to choose what option we think is best for the city and the parks. Would be my thought.
I agree with you.
Do we have any other questions or conversation on this? No? Okay. Anything else from Donovan?
No, thank you.
Okay.
You've given us some good homework.
All right, thank you. All right, do we want the Parks and Trails piece?
Oh, am I doing right
Yeah.
now? Oh, okay.
next?
Yep, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, the agenda item added tonight is just a brief discussion. It's regarding the 2014 comp plan trails section. Donovan is leading the charge on our 2040 comp plan, and recently received some communication back regarding some of the trails chapter. And so this is just, since we were able to get this on the agenda tonight, there will be additional items to work through on this, but we just thought we'd bring it forward quick tonight so you're at least aware of some of the upcoming things to discuss and change. So I'll turn it over to Donovan for that.
Certainly, thank you. Chair and Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, as you recall, in the summer, we discussed the Parks and Trails chapter of the comp plan. The comp plan review is still ongoing. We just completed, or about to complete the receiving comments from neighboring jurisdictions, school district, watershed districts, etc. And we've gotten some comment back from the Bolton and Menk consultant who helped us. Actually, they did a bunch of the public outreach for us. Very skilled, really good support for us in that process. I'll put that little plug in, for them. So on your screen is the basic requirements for the comp plan. The Parks and Trails chapter. And if you look down the second bullet box from the bottom, describe and map your existing and proposed local parks, trails, and recreational facilities. Within, coincidentally, within your packet regarding the parkland dedication fee section, this is basically what exists now as a potential parkland map for the city. And what the feedback we received is that we need to basically add text to this, either referencing this as it's a 2040 adopted plan, and also putting some language around this, which we did review as part of the Parks and Trails chapter. And it doesn't have to be elaborate, but you know, basically, if we don't include that, it'll come back and we'll have to do it later. So, you know, in order to be a little proactive about it, Bolton Meg, fortunately, we're receiving, you know, information from other communities and, you know, getting feedback from the Met Council, who does the review and make sure, you know, that all these boxes are checked. We have a chance now to correct this before it goes for their review. And, you know, I'd like to just present, you know, kind of put it on your agenda, you know, or kind of put it in mind now. And Jamie informs me that there's potential meeting.
Yeah, we might, we'll talk about it a little later, but potentially looking at having an additional meeting in April, so we'll talk about that date, but looking at having an early April meeting to address some of these items that may need to go into action, so we can follow up with that.
And so, you know, just to put it before you now, but then follow up with, this is an agenda item at that meeting in April. So I'm not really looking for much feedback now, but it's something you can think about. And again, it doesn't have to be elaborate, but, because there's so many things we don't know, and you're just beginning to, you know, other strategic work as well.
Yes.
You know, so this, you know, this is a comp plan and it has a certain official status, but it doesn't have to be the final word.
So that would help create more transparency and clarity if we did that. Is that correct, or? would
Yeah,
that help?
yeah. But I mean, a true process is more than, you know, talking about one meeting and then you know,
Yep.
making decisions the next.
Yep,
And so, you know, maybe it's not gonna be a lot more than, you know, I can provide some you know, some text for the next meeting for you to take a look at, and, you know, because, you know, Jamie and I did, you know, had some conversations around creation of this, along with the sea engineer, of this trail map you see before you, so, and there has been some, you know, previous thought on this one. But, you know, I also welcome more input, and if we can make it a little more robust, that'd be welcome.
And then the other trail, is that, I'm not seeing, I don't know if I'm seeing that one on here, but we've got that new trail coming in off of, on the land swap that we did last year also.
One over by the Pratt development.
Yeah,
So that can go on there also, unless I'm not seeing it.
yeah, it actually, it's there, because it was kind of, actually it was, you know, it's been part of, city plan since basically '06. So you can kind of, there's a, it's.
Oh,
yeah,
there it is, the
it's
green.
it's the
Yep,
green
there it is,
there.
okay, yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
how do we incorporate in here? I know last year when we were looking at this, or when there was the public meeting, there were conversations about identifying other trails, or creating an awareness, or sidewalks and things like that, those are a trail as well. Is there a way to, if we revisit this piece, is there a way to somehow incorporate some of those maybe key areas into this?
Well, we could do something like a trail corridor, which would kind of represent a general alignment. And, because a lot of this really is driven by where the right-of-way gets platted. You know, and again, there's just so much uncertainty around that. You know, succession of land as it becomes developed. You know, it'd be good to be able to, you know, if something kind of, if a domino falls kind of out of order, you know, it'd be great to have some guidance, you know, for that kind of the second, you know, the next tier, so that things would line up in the end. Actually, one of the comments we received from the city of Hugo is that our trails don't line up with theirs. So we have an opportunity, and I'll have information for you at the next meeting, you know, opportunity to actually correct that now. I think they have, their version of Fenway Avenue is kind of more of a winding parkway. We're kind of following the grid currently right now, just the existing gravel road. Of course, that could change as well. You know, but that's, I don't know, that's maybe a little beyond the latitude of our, because there's all sorts of, water and sewer plans that kind of, are use Fenway and then 190th is basically is trunk lines. It's kind of a skeleton for the future, public water and sewer services. But certainly, beyond that, I think there's opportunities to identify trail corridors. And I can also, pull up where wetland areas are, because there's certainly areas that it would be prohibitive to place a trail through.
And then Terry, I think you're speaking in regards to existing facility and structure. So I actually reached out to city engineer this week, and I do have an updated map. The city of Forest Lake existing pedestrian facilities. So it's everything that's included in plans for 2019. So it's existing bituminous path, existing concrete pavers, and existing concrete sidewalks. So I do have a map of that for the city, and I think what we're talking about is a priority to kind of make like a user-friendly map of where there are connections, whether it's between one or any of those means, that we can kind of create or promote some like looped paths, whether you got to take this street and this sidewalk and whatnot. So I think this information I just received this week will be really helpful in that, and then we can take that to the next step of really creating a more of a identifying what those little looped trails may be, and put a document together that would help promote that. So I can send this over and share this with you via email.
So I think it might be helpful to get the information, if we could see the feedback and some suggestions in relation to this in enough time, that would allow us time to, again, kind of think about it and maybe discuss it at the April meeting. That would be helpful, I think, from my perspective. I don't know if you guys have thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's the right direction, but I certainly want to see some more information on it.
Yeah, and also maybe even we could, like what Donovan was saying, is make like trail corridors or trail corridor signs. Say one side is gonna be the red sign, and that's gonna go from 61 up to North Shore, and on the west side it'll be a green colored sign or something, or how they interconnect.
So like
Sounds
color
like it's
coding
work for us.
these ways to show connectivity?
Yeah, like for trail connectivity.
Who pays for the trails?
The developer does. It's part of the public, it's part of the public infrastructure, like stormwater ponds, streets, utilities.
Okay.
So the next step on this one, to get some additional information, and then we can review it and discuss it? Does that sound okay?
Yep.
Because you're not looking for any action
No.
tonight.
Look forward
Perfect.
to the recommendation.
All right. I think that takes care of that one, unless you guys have anything you want to add there. Thank you, Donovan. So next up, we have Arts in the Park entertainment schedule.
All right, so this evening, we are looking to discuss hopefully a pretty almost final Arts in the Park concert series entertainment schedule. This was as a result of our last discussion on this. City staff was directed to make some changes from the previous draft lineup that we had. These changes basically reflect one kids and family night. There were a couple bands or groups that were not as had some other conflicts, and some recommendations that were brought forward by Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission members. So before you here, I do have paper copies if anyone would like one, otherwise up on the screen. I've worked with our music promoter, Woody McBride, to lock in what you see here as confirmed pending approvals. Tonight, we're not seeking approvals. This is the opportunity to discuss any potential final changes, and then this would be something that would just move into a formal approval at our next meeting. I just want to note a couple items here. A couple of the groups, we are, having some bigger name bands, so you'll see more that have the, $1,000 or more for the entertainment expense. The Church of Cash last year was really a big hit in the park. I had a lot of positive feedback on that. So what I did add is the Farmer's Daughter is a country music group that really highly recommended from commission member, and our music promoter said that they're a great group. They're the only one that we haven't have a confirmed cost on, but we're estimated around $1,500 for them. We also added Miss Meyer and the Moonshiners, another great group that was recommended. Bringing back Row Family Singers, and we also did include the Brio Brass Band, which is a 55-piece band that's been looking to get back into Arts in the Park. So those are some of the changes. You'll see the total entertainment expense of $11,250. And I just did a little comparison to kind of last year. So I feel comfortable with where we're at, given that we also still have the opportunity to solicit sponsorship for the event. So here's a little recap of our Arts in the Park or our entertainment budget last year. So every year we have $31,500 in our entertainment budget. So I just went through and kind of pulled the high level, some of the larger expenses out for you to see how that breaks down and what our expenses are for. So last year, we had $3,300 contracted for Woody McBride and his services in scheduling and attending Arts in the Park. Our Arts in the Park spend on entertainment last year was $10,150. We spent about $1,200 on the community corn feed, $1,700 on the tree lighting. We do provide a donation out of our budget to the Forest Lake American Legion for the 4th of July fireworks. And we also have an additional expense for the band and entertainment for the 4th of July. So those numbers right there was that total you see of $27,285 out of the $31,500. Some of the other additional expenses are supplies needed to run the different events, so miscellaneous smaller items like that add up for the difference. And we still had $1,900 left in that account last year. So I am comfortable with the entertainment expense proposed for 2019. Just wanted to note that we've had a lot of popularity with the Elvis Experience. He's the #1 Elvis impersonator band, and he has been to Arts in the Park for several years. We didn't have him last year. He took the year off. So that is an option to slot in, but only on June 18th. So that would be in place of the Crossroads Band. So that's just another kind of discussion item if you want to bring Elvis back or not. And they'd have to be that June 18th. So tonight I'm looking for any final discussion on this. Otherwise, we'd be looking to set this schedule here soon and get final approvals and get contracts going in early April. With that, if you have any questions, comments, I'll turn it over to the commission.
Is it $800 extra for Elvis, or is it $300 extra on top of the $500?
The second one, so it'd be an additional,
$800.
Yep, it would be $800 for the June 18th night. But then we would not have the Crossroads Band. Crossroads Band, I'm not as familiar with. I believe that was a community, someone just had recommended them. I feel like they would be an opportunity to consider for a different community event that we may host. Whether that's Lake Fest or some other event. So I know our objective with Arts in the Park has really been to continue to strengthen the entertainment concert series so that it continues to bring in people to the community, so groups that have more of a following or that are more popular, or someone's going to travel into town to see, in addition to supporting our community and providing a good concert series for the Forest Lake community. So I think that some of these groups do have that natural following as well.
I guess I'd probably recommend if we can get the Elvis guy there, nothing against local people, but I think if you're a vendor, you want people walking past your tent or spot. I think it's good to get people downtown, So I guess my opinion would be to go with Elvis.
I agree with Tim, $300.
I'd agree also.
Book 'em, Dano.
Book 'em down.
Okay, any other comments or thoughts, feedback on the proposed schedule? Otherwise, this is your last chance for discussion, and then this would come forward for final approval at our next meeting and move forward with.
I like that we have some bigger band opportunities here that I think will draw in So I really like that piece of it. I think as we look at identifying sponsors for these, we need to have a sponsorship strategy. If they sponsor a band, what do they get? Do they get a sign in the park? Do they get noticed? What does that look like? Because I think that'll be really important to have that outlined, and then I'm sure that there are community partners that would be interested in sponsoring, so I don't see that as an issue.
I think, and to the point about sponsorship, I'm pretty close to having that complete. What I tried doing sponsorships last year, and it was tied to a sponsor was tied to a specific night, and there were some challenges with that because some bands are, valued at more than others, and if the one night it happened to rain out, so then there was some challenges in that if they didn't get their evening at the park. So looking at more of just sponsorship levels, that you're sponsoring and supporting the whole event, and with that, depending on the different tiers, everyone's included in marketing materials, whether it's city website, Facebook page, banners, obviously the degree and depending on your sponsorship level, but then also offering X amount of nights at the park to set up a vendor booth, depending on your sponsorship level, and looking into some different things there, a number of announcements on site that evening, and so I should have that wrapped up here in the next week or so, and if I do, I can share that with the next Parks meeting, if you'd like to see that. Any other items for discussion on this tonight?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Jamie.
right, thank you, Jamie. Funding opportunities is next on the agenda.
Okay, so I'll get to that here. So tonight on the agenda, we also have brought forward a couple of funding opportunities that were brought forward in just recently. I do have a couple in addition to these, but tonight I just wanted to bring this up and talk about a couple of the opportunities to engage Parks Commission in this. The first one is the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota. They have a Catalyst funding grant. This is for projects or programs that are support of commercial tobacco control, healthy eating, or physical activity. They're going to award them up to $5,000 to $30,000. The initial deadline is April 15th, which would result in the project being done in 2019. I did listen to the webinar for this end of last week, and I learned a lot in that time period there. This is a new grant opportunity that is offered through Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Really, they have a quick deadline on this project. This just got released. The reason they have a quick deadline is they're really wanting to get funding out there for people that really just need the money to get a project going or to offer something in the community. They are excited for applicants and proposals. They are not certain how many they're going to award at this time. They're just really going to see what they can do and what they receive for proposals. They're hoping to fund at least 20 and just want different, unique, creative ideas. But a second application cycle will be opening in June of this year as well. It's going to have a longer lead time on applying to the grant, and it would be a project for completion in 2020. So with that, I'm looking for some input if this timeline is too aggressive or if there's interest in trying to put together an application now. I think one thing to look at is just staff resources, making sure that we can get to meet the deadline and execute yet this year. I'm open to pursuing that if we have a good project in mind for that. Secondly, the Rotary Club has brought forward a proposal or a request for a proposal for a playground project. And they're right now estimating a value or an amount of $15,000 to $20,000. And this is kind of to be determined on the exact amount once they do a fundraising initiative coming up here soon. They told me April 2nd is a deadline for proposal and the project to be completed in 2019. So just wanted to bring these options forward for you and see if you had any items of consideration. If you'd like to see the city staff try to move forward with a grant opportunity yet this year, and if you have any considerations for the Rotary Club project. So with that, I'll turn it over and see if you have any initial thoughts or comments.
Before I throw out an idea, I want to be sure that you're able to meet the deadline, Jamie, because I got an idea. And
I think if we have a project that's kind of shovel ready or ready that we think we can put an application together for, I definitely think that it's, it's a possibility. It's about 4 weeks from now, so.
Okay. The community has indicated that it would like a community garden destination. And recently, we made a land swap with Pratt Homes in the Fenway. I'm gonna call it a triangle. That in the long run, we're gonna develop into additional ball fields. But in the short term, we've got infrastructure there in the form of an irrigation system that we can tap into. Why not pull pipe over, develop a community garden space off of the Fenway Park? There's parking there, access to water. I would even go so far as to say rent the plots and use the proceeds from renting the plots for dedicated funds for lighting Fenway. So there's a happy relationship going on there. But the property would eventually become more ball field, or when we look at the big circle F out there that Donovan was talking about, maybe that's where the more ball fields go. I don't know, I'm just thinking community gardens right now.
No, that's a good- I
And
think
Tim
that's-
said that falls right in line with the Blue Cross Blue Shield healthy.
Healthy eating and physical activity.
Yeah, that would be a good application. I think if we were gonna pursue that for the grant, I think that we would probably be best suited to wait until the June timeframe, because right now, awards would not be awarded until May or June, and so we wouldn't even get the garden plots planted, built and planted, and then people aren't gonna be able to utilize them this year, so
Okay.
I'd follow up with the Blue Cross Blue Shield to see a little bit more of their next timeline to say, when would the project funds be available. If they're available in January, we could have that whole project done and still rent them out, I think, next year. I'd have to look into that on the timing, if it's which grant application that would pursue.
Perfect, thank you. That's a good point, growing season.
In snow.
Yeah.
I'm torn a little bit because I hate to see us walk away from grant opportunities, but I also think we have an opportunity to complete our strategic planning first, and then we may have a better idea of where we would want some investments. I really would like to see us have a list of ready-to-go projects for people like the Rotary or the Lions or other organizations that have some either donations that they want to make, or there's some granting opportunities. If we took the time to do the strategic planning, had a list available, then it would, in my mind, maybe make some of the grant process a little bit easier, and it may also help us stay a little bit more focused or grounded, instead of, as I say, use the analogy of the movie Up, the dog and the squirrel, squirrel. And so I'm torn a little bit. Part of me would like us to wait until we do the strategic planning and identify some things that might be worthy of grants. That's why I'd really like to see us to have one of the groups be budgeting and grant, and always being on the lookout for grants.
Yeah, and I think, if we did apply now and we did not receive grant funding, we would be eligible to reapply in June. However, I think that does make sense to wait a little bit and plan it out, so we're not throwing in a quick application, and can put a little more thought into that and how it aligns with some of this overall strategies, and even with at city council level. Access to healthy foods is an important piece in the community. I've had multiple requests for more community gardens or in a more visible location, so Fenway, it could be a great opportunity for that, given the connectivity to the trail system, and there's water access. So I think looking at that a little bit closer, and to how that would integrate with the land that's now available and potential future plans and whatnot. So
Yeah, I'd like to echo that. Jack, great idea on the community garden, I love it. As far as Rotary Club, have they indicated any extension to that? That's awfully quick. I think 15 to 20,000, it would help us, and we could come up with something for some of the parks, maybe like a Southwest or something that we didn't have happen last year. But April 2nd seems awful quick to put you under the gun on something like that.
Yeah, and I think this goes to Terry's point, when we can get through this planning to have some shovel-ready projects and initiatives, that'll be helpful. The Rotary meets this Thursday, so I do plan on following up with them. One idea I had, I know they had referenced that the project had to be completed in 2019, but I think this could be a good opportunity to talk to them about partnership in the Belts Improvement Project. And if it's something where they need to get it off the books, that, it could be a donation to the Parks Department for that particular project, and maybe they'd have additional funding to commit next year. And if they were able to, over 2 years, put in $40,000, that's a nice piece of, our inclusive playground or some feature related to there. So I think that's one recommendation that I would have for that. Given the short timeline, I don't think this is something we want to create a new quick project just to get it done. I think that we have a lot going and in the works with Belts Park right now. And if that, along with the grant opportunity for the outdoor recreation grant, I think could make a good application there too. So that's one recommendation I had thought of, maybe following up with them, further conversation to see if we can extend that deadline or talk about that partnership opportunity.
That'd be a great idea.
Well, I guess I was kind of thinking too, like with the Rotary, even down Lakeside Park, where you're looking at intergenerational activities, maybe they get involved with that too.
Sure. No, that's a good idea. The only other need I know that we have, and we'll talk about in our work plan in a little bit, is, the kind of some maintenance and improvements items would be like at Lakeside Memorial Park. I know the shade shelters really could use an improvement, and I don't know if they'd want to tie their name to the shade shelters in some form of sponsorship way of, provided by the Rotary Club. So that could potentially be, but I don't know that we want to create a new project. It's maybe identifying something pending or upcoming in the near future, or something on our work plan list that we'll talk about shortly. So if you have any other ideas or thoughts, I will circle back on the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant and meet with the budgeting committee and talk to them a little bit more about what that application will look like. Not listed here, I do have a grant due this Friday with Washington County, and that is for, let me just pull it up here for you quick. They have here we go. This grant I'm working on right now, I didn't bring it forward because it's due this Friday and I've been working on it, but basically what I'm looking at doing here, I did inform Tim Gary and Jackie on the budgeting committee of this a week or so ago, but they have this opportunity for physical activity as well. And what I'm looking for here are some bike racks, and this I thought we could get some funding for. It says creation and production of promotional materials, so I'm gonna look at that trail map as part of this grant. Also looking at May is National Bike Month, and so I think it's May 17th is Bike to Work Day. Looking at trying to do some kind of programmatic thing around a bike day or bike to work day. So this would support events and materials for anything that encourages biking. So we have a lot of opportunity there. Just trying to finish up some work plan items for that and submit so that we could have some kind of program. And then really get some more bike racks in some of our city parks, which is on our needs list. So this is up to $5,000. And I think there's a very small percentage of a match, which we would have available in our funds for this year. So I am working on that as well. The other grant opportunity, it's due next Friday. I have two of them. One of them is the new initiatives grant through the Minnesota Park and Rec Foundation. I've sent that out to everybody a couple times. That grant is annual and it's 2 times a year, so I just don't think we found the right fit yet. I would like to save that to consider a new winter event and some programming there that's innovative, creative. So I don't think I will be submitting the application for this cycle, and we'll wait till the next one on that. And then I'm also working on the city's recycling grant. We get funding for city parks, and we can use that for helping promote recycling in parks. So if there's anything that you have related to that, I'd be happy to take a look at that. It's due next Friday. So, all right, thanks. Thank you.
So work plan 2019.
All right, so I'll look at that. So again, kind of talking about priorities and strategic planning. Recently, we held a community open house on February 19th, and during this time, we were able to it was a good opportunity to gather some community input regarding needs for the needs and desires for the parks, trails, and lakes in Forest Lake. And from there, the objective really was have it be a starting place on what the community is interested in and what some of the needs are. From there, we're going to move forward in two directions. One is kind of identifying let's get to work. Here's our work plan. Here's some things that we can do or need to do right now out of the chute here early in the year. Aside from that, Terry's been doing a lot of work on some of the all the other items in the strategic planning piece. I know City Council is going to begin those conversations here in the second quarter, so that should be coming up quickly. So Terry will kind of continue to lead some of our 5-year, long-term strategies, capital improvement planning. I know there's been a lot of interest and conversation around trails and trail development. That's a big part of this, and that's going to be more strategic planning. Those are expensive. They take a lot of time. Really need to identify some revenue streams for trail development. So right now, tonight, we're just looking at a work plan. So what I did is I took items from all the commission members that you guys have shared with me as what you thought were your priorities based on community feedback and what you think is important to the community. Obviously, also addressing anything that we know is of time sensitivity with regards to safety concerns or just general maintenance that needs to take place. So tonight, this is a working document, and I know Chair Terry has agreed as well that to keep everyone on the same page and to just keep getting more work done is to really have a working document that this can then be updated on a monthly basis to show, okay, this is complete. Each of the activities you see listed, some of them might just be a quick get it done and cross it off the list. Some of them are going to require different action steps in a project management list, potentially of different tasks that we need to do to complete the overall task. So, for example, the Belts Park Master Plan is going to have many steps involved, and I think we're moving in that right direction. So with that, this is just a starting point. If there's anything on here that you're seeing missing, or would you like to change priorities in this, just wanted to open it up for a discussion tonight. Otherwise, the next step will be working with some of the individual different groups that we've assigned members to. So for example, partnerships and agreements is Terry and Tim Miller. So working together with them on some of the items listed for the management agreements that we have, as an example.
So can we just take a quick step back for those that weren't with us at the last meeting and stop me if you already know this, but part of what we did was take the community feedback and things that we had received either via Facebook, Nextdoor app, or one-on-one from people, and then ideas that the commission had, and we put them into buckets, or we tried to categorize them into the buckets of capital improvements, maintenance, and we had a definition for each one of those so that we'd all be singing the same song when we looked at what is a capital improvement, what is budgeting, what is maintenance. And that's where you see on the spreadsheet the category. Can you do
Yep.
mind scrolling
Yep.
up? Sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
Where it says outcome supported, that's basically the category that the items in the activity column we thought aligned with. And then to keep that in sync, as Jamie mentioned, we looked at creating the different groups or committees and assigning us to those different committees that aligned with those categories, so that when we're meeting monthly, we'll be able to take some actions and do some work, but then when we're meeting monthly, we'll be able to give updates at these meetings as to what we've done in relation to the areas that we have. And then the priority type, Jamie, is that priority one, are those the things that people voted on as their top 2 or 3, the commission, or?
Yeah, so priority, so some of these, some of the priorities are based on safety needs. Some of them are based on simple maintenance tasks. So I know that we've had a lot of requests to get dog cleanup standard bags and baskets. We had a couple requests for there. So we can order those and get that done and cross it off the list. So that we can come out right away in the spring and that's just done. Beyond that, priorities are based on what we can do this year, aligning with potential resources and taking into consideration commission members' feedback to myself as well as community members. So this is a lot for even 1 year. I mean, this is a lot to start chipping away at. And I think a lot of this is really going to end up with being a part of the bigger strategic plan. But this gives us a starting point to look at some of the things we know we need to address. I know a big one from the maintenance and improvements piece is evaluating and addressing the surfacing at parks. That's just something we need to do as a maintenance task. I'm assuming all of the parks will need some form of topping off of the surfacing. And I know that we've gone back and forth on the surfacing materials to use. So I think, some of those are just driven by the need of a deadline or a safety concern or a simple maintenance task. But beyond that, it again took into consideration Parks Commission and community feedback. When we go into strategic planning, some of those long-term strategies are going to have, I think, a better, more defined priority attached to them from a holistic, big approach.
So the strategic planning, there were other items that were on the list that were community related that aren't on here. And one of the things I would like to see us do with those is, as the city council develops their strategic plan, I'd like to see us look at those and then try to assign a priority to them using some type of scoring mechanism. So that if somebody in the community asked, how did this get on the list for a 3-year plan or whatever, we would at least have a scoring system or a matrix that would say, we all looked at these, we all scored it, the score came out as to this, and that's why it fell under this category. So that I'm big into transparency and I like to be able to explain things, and that would maybe help us explain things, and it would align with whatever the city council comes up with the plan. But in the interim, this gets us started and has some priorities set. And I would like to see us have this list in front of us at every meeting and just talk about, okay, this one's done. Which gives us a second to celebrate, but then it also demonstrates to us and the community we're getting some things done, which I'm not sure in the past we've been able to articulate.
Yeah, and 2 comments from that. I think, one, I definitely agree that some formal scoring matrix, but I think what's going to be really important for the success of the Parks Commission is to go along with City Council in that strategic planning session, because I think that working together with them, they're going to be able to maybe have a better understanding of things that we may not know of like future developments or resources that might be available, and align our work within their priorities or strategies at a city level, and then have from there develop our 5-year park strategic plan, but really work with council, because they may have things that they may be aware of that we're not aware of, or can help us in this process to help identify priorities at the park level. A lot of it's also, you have to think about economic development in the community, and there's a lot of conversations about that right now. Why, who's coming to Forest Lake? Who wants to live here? What are they going to want and need? And I think those are the conversations we need to be involved with and understand at that bigger level of how this could impact the city altogether. Park and recreation is really important in the community, and I think, a lot of people really want to move to a community that has good amenities. So I think, again, just reiterating that, let's, working along with council on that strategic planning. It's an exciting time to be able to see what that might look like over the next few years, and really then get into that detailed scoring matrix. And so we do have a document of why we're doing what we're doing, and then it's kind of just following along and executing at that point as funds are available. And then secondly, I'm kind of a list person, so cross it off the list, you're done. And some of these, if, it could take me 10 minutes, 15 minutes to build out a little task list for each project. And that might be helpful too, to say, okay, well, we got this part done. Because someone might think it's just one little project's piece of cake, go get it done. But sometimes there's several layers like an onion, you just got to keep peeling away, and there's 15 steps to complete one project. So I think this will be a good working document, and we can continue to add or change as needed. But I think hopefully this is a good starting point. And if you have any other adjustments or considerations, otherwise I'd plan on bringing this every meeting and sharing with you.
Jamie, can we put this into an Excel spreadsheet with printable tabs as well, so that we could sort it? So if for maintenance, we
Yep.
have a list and a tab that is maintenance only, and we can tick off that list or see, there's some things that are identifiable for maintenance to work on, or if you're on the budgeting committee, what falls under budgeting, and if we could put it into, I like this view as well, as it's a nice printable, but if we could put it into an Excel spreadsheet with a tab for each one.
Yeah, it's in Excel. I just have to do it in this format for meeting purposes, but I do have it in Excel. We can do a filter, so you can filter out which budget category you're in, or I can create a separate tab for each, whichever is preferred. And that's not a problem at all, so I can get that over to everybody. Any other thoughts or comments on the whole, the work plan together, the process? Is everyone on board with, this seems like a good idea? Good?
Comments
great.
at all?
Looks good.
So I guess at any point in time, if you think of, if a community need comes up or a safety hazard, so Tim Miller, I believe you're on the maintenance, and I think Jason's also gonna be on that maintenance committee, so if you hear of something in the community, and you're out and you see it, then you can just let me know, either if I need to address it right away, if it's a immediate hazard that needs to be replaced, or if it requires ordering new parts and, it's not posing a safety issue, that's something that would be then added to the list, and we'll start working on getting that item repaired and replaced. And anybody, you don't have to just be on the maintenance committee, but if anyone has anything so.
The other nice thing, I think, is it gives us an opportunity outside of the meetings to start working on some of these, and we don't have to group think the ideas and group work them. You guys can, or we can work them individually in the smaller groups, and then bring back the progress and updates, or if we're stuck and looking for insight, then give it a shot and see how it works.
One question I have, and so we're gonna be redoing Lakeside Park this year with the new playground. So on the new concrete slabs and shade covers, it's under maintenance and improvements, but we're gonna be having some concrete work done there. Is there any way we could tie that in with Lakeside? And we might be able to get a lower break cost on the concrete since they're gonna be out there, or am I going the wrong way with it?
No, I think it's a good consideration and cost effective. However, I think that the scope of work might be bigger than we realize, to get rid of the existing concrete. That's elevated and excavation work, removal, and I think it might be a little bit bigger of a project. And given that we're already gonna be kind of disrupting that playground area here soon, I think that we should look at that as a specific project in itself to address those shade shelters, and that's an example of breaking that down of what is that gonna look like. So we have to, what are we gonna do with the existing, what are we gonna do with that concrete slab and the issue? And we don't want the issue to happen again where it's elevating, so how do we resolve that? So I think it's gonna take some work to just understand what that remedy is for that particular project. But I do think that, we should look at that fairly soon and have that conversation. But it is a good thought.
Comments, questions? That means no more questions. It went dark.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut that off. I have to change
guess we're
gears.
done.
Sorry.
Thank
You can still ask questions.
Turn the lights off.
This is very nice.
Yeah, it's a good start from where we've been.
So be ready to talk about your areas once a month and where we're at. All right, Jamie, Easter egg hunt event.
So again, for discussion tonight, I think just in general, our community programming, I think, this winter we Flake Festival has kind of dwindled down given some changes with leadership at the chamber and over the last few years and their involvement in that event. That was primarily a chamber-led event. I'm similarly looking at the Easter egg hunt, and I have a lot of challenges with the event. A lot of it's due to weather and the time of the year. I've had cancellations, rain outs, rescheduling. Last year was snow, and we've always had it down at the park, so there's challenges with the wind off the lake. It's just really cold. You really can't do a lot of solid programming. You can have the Easter egg hunt, which lasts about 10 to 15 minutes for a couple hundred kids, and then you also, you can't do any crafts or activities. It's too windy and too cold. There's really not a lot we can do for that event. So we've run into a lot of challenges with to make that a good community event. I did talk briefly with Terry, as she's on the Programs and Events Committee, looking into some feedback from commission if we kind of go away from the traditional Easter egg hunt to doing more of like a spring fling event, potentially looking at utilizing Fenway Park, given if the availability is there. I did talk to the ice arena manager, and anytime after May 6th, until school is out, there's some options there as like a backup location for rain, or potentially utilizing their indoor space for an event like that. Just in a brainstorm with Terry, we talked about a petting zoo, bounce houses, crafts and activities, potentially food trucks, some entertainment for kids. I think that we could just offer a better program and make it worth, city, resources and people's time to come out and stay for a couple hours, have enough activity going on throughout that time. Again, last year I know that people came to the event, they did the egg hunt, and then they left, shortly thereafter. So for people to take time to get out of their homes and come out and really have it only be a 15 to 30 minute adventure for them, I think there's more that we could offer with our programming. So just wanted to throw it out for discussion tonight if anyone had any thoughts on going away from that traditional event to kind of doing something new and different with kind of a spring fling event maybe in May. Open for any discussion or thoughts.
How about a touch a truck event?
Like a big truck event that is held at the Hardwood Creek Library.
Oh, do we have a touch a truck event?
The Hardwood Creek Library does have an event out there, so I believe that's like May 5th or 6th. So they put that on. They have the Teddy Bear Band usually come out.
Oh.
So, maybe there's an opportunity for some partnership and aligning resources so that it's one bigger event versus, something smaller for half an hour. So
What is Touch a Truck?
Touch a truck is where you bring all the big trucks that the city owns, including
Okay.
fire trucks and the new sweeper. And you put them all in the parking lot, and the little kids get to crawl all over them.
Neat.
They love it.
So that does exist. It's planned by the Hardwood Creek Library, big truck event in May.
$1 billion
And I do have
idea.
a partnership with them. So, do we want to look at pooling resources and adding to something of that, or doing our own Parks Commission Spring Fling event? Continue with the Easter egg hunt, given the challenges. Any other thoughts on? I know that we'd have the Easter Bunny on site. I know that there are a lot of other communities that, I think the Lions Club, Terry, did you guys do a breakfast with the Easter Bunny?
Yep, so I think in the community, I think last year, the VFW had an Easter egg hunt, Easter bunny thing. I know the Forest Lake Lions have the Easter bunny at the waffle breakfast. So there are other Easter egg opportunities in the community. And one of the things that stemmed this is we got a request from the Lions to look at being able to plant trees. And they'd like to donate some trees and have some trees planted in the community. And so one of the things I was talking to Jamie about was, could we do something a little different like this and maybe have the Lions give away a tree that somebody could take home and plant in their own yard as an alternative option, or, and working the Easter egg hunt, it is brutally cold. And Jamie's right, you have that 10 minutes of they've found their eggs and they're all right there, and then what do you do with them? And
So last year I tried to add to the event. I did 100 golden eggs, and those were actually hidden in the park. So people found those, but they found them exceptionally fast, and they redeemed them for little coupons, and these were all donated. And then there were some challenges with what they were getting, was maybe, you know, a McCafe from McDonald's, you know, that was one of the prizes. And so there were some challenges there. And I did a scavenger hunt, but then people were stealing some of the things for the scavenger hunt. And so I tried to add to the event to make it be something that, okay, we can do the egg hunt, then we can do this, then we can do that. But it's just a challenge being out in the cold and the weather. And even April, we generally do it the Sunday before Easter, which would be April 14th. And I'm thinking it's going to be pretty wet and soppy on any fields or in any grassy area. So I'm challenged with scheduling it for that reason alone too. So I'm just looking for some input on, does Parks Commission have any desire for a different event, or do you want to keep moving forward with the traditional egg hunt?
I think
How
we
about flying kites?
That could be an option.
You know, because then you, other than rain, you know, windy's fine. You know, it's kind of like windy.
Yeah, I don't think that'd have to be out at Fenway if there's the space out there.
And I don't remember where, but I've seen, you know, and maybe more like Minneapolis, where you have people that, you know, will help to build the kites, more like box kites. And you know, I've seen these, you know, events of flying kites and making them do different things, and I don't know if that's somebody that you can Google Kite Master or something, and the name pops up, and you can have them come out and help the kids build kites, and then they get to fly the kites or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot more opportunity for spring-like activities. We talked about, you know, building a kite could be a little session and then fly your kites. You know, we talked about, you know, you can get a bunch of bubbles or a bubble machine out. I mean, there's a lot more I think you could do.
I think potentially we could look at some, you know, if a business was interested in sponsoring a station, like the Lions, if they wanted to give away trees, maybe we have another station that somebody wants to build a kite, and that business kind of hosts it, or, you know what I mean? There might be some other.
And the Touch a Truck it's at the library?
Yeah.
Yes. So maybe we could use some of their rooms inside, for if we kind of partnered with them. Because I know with the Easter egg hunt, it's a challenge. We've had it here because we couldn't have it up at the park at Lakeside. It's a huge kind of challenge, and if we could kind of do a partnership with the Lions and Touch a Truck, and have a kite building, I think that would be a pretty neat thing.
Yeah, I think it's just important to, you know, for programs and events, making sure we're providing for the community. And I think, you know, if people want to see the Easter Bunny, there's opportunities for that. I know that the big old Easter egg hunt is fun and exciting for like the 10 minutes that it is, but, you know, then kids, if they show up a minute late, you know, they aren't there for that and they miss it. And
Yeah, my biggest concern with it though is if we're still getting 200 kids to show up, are we gonna disappoint the community? I certainly would, I mean, have you ever done any polls on the Facebook page?
I have not run a poll on our Facebook page, but that could be a good idea to kind of get
gauge
community
some-
input. I know that there
Certainly
might
just
be
going
the,
forward on any item, maybe it might not be a bad idea.
so I will, is there any consensus on, is anyone interested in pursuing, like foregoing the egg hunt or spring fling and moving to a spring fling, or do you really want to, you know, kind of gauge community input first?
I kind of agree with Tim. If you got 200 kids that are thinking, we got the Easter egg hunt coming up, because Christmas was a couple months ago. And
Candy.
it's something simple, not too elaborate, don't go over the top. They get it out of their system.
And be done.
It does take a long time to set up, and you're articulating a lot on getting things set up and purchasing things and hiding things and trying to find things to do. Like last year, it was windy and windy and cold, and they were in and out.
And we tried to rush things up so that they could get out of the cold, and then people were mad because we sped things, the drawings up to get them out of the cold, and then it was
And even like when we switched it from Lakeside to here, we had it here because weather was inclement, and it's 10 to 15 minutes and go. So for the hours and hours and hours it takes to set up.
So what I'll do is, I think what I'll do is try to get a little input from the community, or put together some recommendations on what this spring event might look like. I think we could still incorporate some Easter, like, items, and provide candy or goodies or goodie bags that could be sponsored by somebody in the community, and maybe they'll end up getting more than they get than their 10 eggs and, a few pieces of candy, if we look at doing something a little different. It is a lot of times, time and resources go into a 30-minute event. So I think just wanted to at least share with you the challenges that we have with this community event that we sponsor. But there are a lot of challenges for it, and I've had more challenges than benefits of it. So I think you get more people that maybe show up a couple minutes late, or your kids only get 10 eggs or whatever that limit is because you have so many kids showing up. So is there a way to improve it with a bigger event that might last a little longer but have more to offer and provide a good experience for people? So I will circle back, double check on a couple things, and if we have a early April meeting, I can circle back at that time. If you have any other thoughts or feedback, feel
Early
free to-
April meeting in my mind might be a little late.
Yeah.
Because Easter is, the
Yes, you're right. I
21st?
forget that we're in the almost end of March now.
So I think we need to give you some direction now. We're almost at the end of March. So I think we either have to say, continue with the Easter egg hunt, don't do the Easter egg hunt, or look at another option, because if we wait much longer, Easter's here, and then we have community members that are mad because they expected something and they didn't hear from us one way or another. So I feel like waiting till April is
That is a good point.
too late.
lost track of how
And that
quick
could
it's
cause us
coming
some
up.
issues as well.
So the Easter egg is all volunteer, put together, set up. Then the kids come in half hour later. Volunteer, tear down.
Yep,
Lot of logistics there.
So, for example, last year, we went out and found businesses that were willing to donate gift cards and gift certificates. So you've got to start that now if you're going to do that. And we've got to have a letter in place because they want to see it as the potential of a tax deduction of some type. So we've got to get going on that now so that we can have enough of those prizes that are available. And then, like Jamie said, last year, we tried to expand it to do some additional activities, because in the year past, people complained that it only lasted 5 minutes, and then the eggs were done and they were gone, and they came out and they may not have gotten as many eggs or whatever the case might be. So last year, we tried to expand it. So doing that, scavenger hunt. The only problem was that people stole some of the scavenger hunt items. So then we had people complaining about the fact that the scavenger hunt item wasn't there, so they weren't able to find it. We tried the golden egg concept last year, where those were a little bit bigger prize that people were able to win. And then we did a drawing so that if they didn't find a golden egg, they could be included in a drawing for a larger prize. People complained that it was cold outside and they had to wait because they were done with the scavenger hunt, but the drawing wasn't until X time. So then we tried to move up the drawing, like literally by 15, 20 minutes, so that we could get people out of there. Well, we moved up the drawing, and then people came at that very last minute just to be included in the drawing, and they complained because the drawing was over and they missed out, or the prizes within the eggs were not, even though we segregate them. I mean, we took time to set out all these eggs and in different age categories. The gift in the egg was not age appropriate for their child.
Okay,
So
okay.
There's a lot
would
more that goes
I'm just giving you a little
Yeah.
idea
But-
of the work that goes into it.
I would suggest that Hey, blame it on the inclement weather this year and set the precedent that the community doesn't get an Easter egg hunt. Break people's hearts with the weather. I know maybe it's a little too early to use that as an excuse, but it sounds to me like it's a logistical nightmare.
As they play back this video and watch us talking about.
Yeah.
There are a lot of logistics, so it's a lot of staff time to kind of coordinate the prizes that go into the eggs, getting the eggs filled, recruiting volunteers, soliciting donations, promotion of the event, being on site for setup, takedown, finding somebody to be the Easter bunny. There's a lot of that goes into it, and I'm happy to do it. It's just, I wanted to share with you some of the challenges that we have and evaluate it. Is this a good use of city resources, and are we providing a good quality community event at this point of that it lasts 15 to 30 minutes. And I don't think it's been poorly planned. I think that it's just been the weather, and people don't have a desire to be out there. They want to, do the egg hunt, see Easter Bunny, and that's it. So we can continue to do that, and that's fine. I just know there's a lot of challenges, and I am concerned about the wet conditions that we're going to have in the next couple weeks with the melting that's going to be taking place. So those are my concerns and challenges, and just wanted to at least share those with you. I'm happy to continue.
So now you said something about that Fenway is available, so is the ice out of the bubble?
It will be after May 6th, the indoor ice arena location.
Oh, so that's
For
too
the-
late.
May 6th, I'm sorry, what did
Spring
May?
fling or whatever we do. I mean, it sounds like at this point, we're not quite far enough along in the planning for this event anyways.
We could look at, we have done it the Saturday before Easter, which is the Sunday before Easter is April 14th. Doesn't have to be that day, it could be Easter weekend, it could be the weekend after, it could be in that general time frame to still run an egg hunt. So,
Sorry.
that's okay, go ahead.
There sounds like there's some other events, maybe it'd be good for us to bolster those events, this time around. And try to get some, marketing or whatever out, Facebook, website, showing the community where there are opportunities for those Easter type, events, if we're not gonna do the hunt.
I guess I was thinking that if the ice route at Fenway, where you could turn that into an event, and that way you don't worry about the weather, but then you maybe have the teddy bear band, and you get the Easter Bunny, and you can have a number of events. But it sounds like we're always, Easter moves, number one, so you have to kind of move your event around. Well, if it's late, you're pretty good luck, except that if you have snow and cold and blizzards in April and whatever else, you're almost better off to make it at a facility that isn't weather related, so you can always have the event.
That was the strategy or my reasoning behind contacting the ice arena, because if there's a sweet spot in May that they're always going to have availability, it could be a partnership to just have that be an indoor event. We don't have indoor facilities, so that we're always set with more of like a sustainable event moving forward versus, which day is it going to be this year? Because Easter does move. If it's in March, you still have snow in the park. We're shoveling sidewalks to get people there. So, having a sustainable event, and if that's a spring event, maybe we still could do some form of egg hunt related within that spring fling event in the ice arena if it's an indoor event. So I think it's just about providing the experience and the opportunity for the community. I don't think it necessarily has to be physically in a park, but if we did have it, we still could trickle some programming out to Fenway.
And the ice is out when, did you say?
May 6th.
That's only 2 weeks later than,
2.
2 weeks later than Easter. And if you call it a spring fling or something and just happen to have the Easter Bunny drop in for a post date or whatever, that work?
Let's explore that direction, and we can kind of see how that goes. I'll put together some information the next couple days here, send it over, and try to lock in a date. Does everyone feel comfortable with that?
So the direction being explore the May 6th
Right.
a time frame in May, after May
May
6th, that would work for more of a,
Oh, yeah, you get
Days of May.
May baskets. May
Jamie,
15th.
when did we have it here? Because we had,
2015.
we had it here in 2015, but was that in May?
It was in April,
It was the end of April.
mid-April. And we also have had, 2 years ago, scheduled down at Lakeside, we canceled for rain. It ended up not raining until a little later, so people were upset that we canceled it. And then the reschedule day, it did actually rain pretty hard, so then we moved it into the gymnasium at the YMCA. And I was amazed at how many people transferred over there. I mean, it was just packed, so that was not a large enough space, so I wouldn't do that again, just because it couldn't accommodate everybody. So we've had a lot of challenges in the last 3-4 years with weather related, and it's really hard to plan an outdoor event for that.
So explore it more as a spring fling and perhaps incorporate feedback from the community. If we wait until May, we can post a survey to say, what kinds of things would you like to see at an event like this? So we can still get community input. We can broaden it. It is more inclusive. Not everybody celebrates Easter, and so it allows for some diversity and inclusion. And
I think in going that direction, if we get some feedback that people are going to really miss the egg hunt part of it, we can still incorporate that into the event. It doesn't have to be, just an egg hunt, and can do that, come up with a way to accomplish that within that event.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be, tied to the Easter date. It's just an egg hunt because it's fun. The thrill of picking up some eggs and getting your prize. We can still certainly, I think, accomplish that within a spring fling opportunity. And look for more of a partnership with other groups in the community, maybe piggyback on something that's already existing and strengthen that event with a more sustainable approach with an indoor option, so that this is set moving forward and we're not always spinning our wheels on what to do or where to have it. So, okay, thank you. Good discussion on that.
Becomes a lot better too when you can always plan on it, okay? It's always gonna be May 6th, May 17th, whatever it is. and you just
First
plan it.
Saturday.
you're right.
Well, I think that's important when you're, to be fiscally responsible if we're looking to hire Magic Norm to come do his performance. He's rain or shine. If we just have a little spot for him to pop in to do his performance, people can still come in and see that. We're not, we're being smart with our city dollars and sponsorship dollars, that we're not canceling and out that money because of a last minute rain cancellation. So I think it allows us the chance to really provide a good, strong community event, can plan for more. And I think people will get more out of it than they will out of that, just doing the egg hunt. So,
Yeah.
all right, appreciate your feedback.
Oh, is
on
that
this.
May 4th?
I will follow up on confirmed date. I have to check with Fenway Park availability. But I'm optimistic that there's a day in May that would work well to utilize indoor space.
Just
Right,
think
so-
of Mother's Day weekend and the fishing.
May
opener.
12th.
Fishing opener weekend.
I will take all of that into consideration.
Maybe June.
So looking at next on the agenda, there's a request to maybe have a special meeting on April 9th to potentially look at and approve things like Arts in the Park. Once that's finalized.
Yeah, so per Donovan, talking with Donovan today, would potentially like to schedule the April 2nd, Tuesday, April 2nd as a special meeting to approve Arts in the Park agenda, entertainment. Donovan, I think, will have that information coming forward, and I believe there was a couple of other agenda items that we would possibly have. So I can follow up with you, but just wanted to put that out of April 2nd as a possible special meeting to address some items that are time sensitive.
So the 2nd instead of the 9th.
Correct. We kind of skipped over staff updates. I know we got to get going here. I did just provide a list of kind of key dates that you guys can just look over, some things that I've been working on, some things that are coming up kind of for your information. Just a couple other updates. I've been involved in several Health Up meetings. Health Up is a community initiative here in Forest Lake. We are looking to do some strategic planning around revitalization of the group. Really, a lot of it relates to what we do here, Parks, Trails, and Lakes. That's where we've had some requests on community gardens. How do we improve that? So just I've been involved in a lot of those meetings, and hopefully here coming up in April, we're gonna have one more meeting, April 3rd, with community partners to see how we can take those next steps in strategic planning We're really just looking to identify kind of a backbone organization and bring in all of these different entities that do their own park programming and events under one umbrella and really help have better communication to the community. We also had a Fenway Athletic Advisory Committee meeting just prior to this evening, and that meeting went well. It was just highlighting 2018 and looking ahead to 2019. We did talk about some capital improvement planning. I think you will see that they do have some requests coming forward for immediate needs for ball field improvements. So egg lime, regrading, things of that nature. City staff's gonna look at that a little closer and evaluate. We do need to get a couple additional bids for that project, but it is pretty significant. It's something that we would have liked to have seen, planned on a capital improvement. So more to come on that soon. Maybe even we can get that on the April meeting if needed. And just the Lakeside Memorial Park project, that is in production. They're just basically doing the framework right now, so I don't have any exciting pictures or anything, but that project's moving along. Installation is looking at kind of mid-May, so I will keep you posted on that timeline as we get closer. I put up on the screen, again, just a bunch of dates with things that are going on or that have happened. Our Arts in the Park vendor applications have been online since March 4th, and those are trickling in. Later this week, I will start reviewing those and start approving vendors the week of next week, March 25th. There's a couple other things on here regarding grants. I did want to note that I attended professional development courses. One was on building inclusive community through play, and the other session was increasing physical activity for intergenerational users. I thought that was very informative and helpful as we move forward in park improvements and park development. I think it's things that we should talk about in our strategic planning to really set some standards or look at what other communities are doing in regards to inclusive play and really, the importance of it in the community. Again, I think that's something that people are going to be looking for, and it's a new trend that's really at a national level. It's an important to consider. And also the intergenerational users, we've talked about that quite a bit. Some dates coming up in April. I will be attending a farmers market managers meeting April 4th. It's where all the different farmers market managers throughout the metro, we get together twice a year just to talk about what works at our markets or what doesn't, share ideas. It's really helpful and informative to help us grow our event that we have. And also the career fair at the Forest Lake High School is a good way for us to recruit park rangers for the summer seasonal staff. So I will be attending that. And also April 13th, there's a couple items there. If anyone's interested in being at Coolenkamp Park, the Baseball Association, I said we could do a little ribbon cutting for their baseball field improvements. And then they have an event to follow that they do annually. So there's been a lot going on. It's been busy, and look forward to keep moving forward on some of these items. Any questions or?
April 13th is the same day as the waffle breakfast with the Easter Bunny.
See, there you go.
Any questions?
Oh, thanks, Jamie.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll reach out to individual committees as necessary for some of the project work to do.
Do we have a motion, any updates from you, or a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are
All
adjourned.
right, thank you.